Hey folks, welcome back to another video. Creating effective speaker notes for presentations can be a time-consuming task, especially when dealing with multiple slides. But what if you could automate the process? In this tutorial, I'll walk you through how to build an automation script using Google Apps Script and the Gemini 2.0 Flash model to generate clear, concise speaker notes for Google Slides. By the end of this tutorial, you'll have a fully functioning script that extracts content from your slides, sends it to Gemini for AI generated notes, and inserts the notes directly into each slide. So let's get started. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be using this slide template, or this is going to be a demo presentation. And if you want to work with this presentation, I'll leave that link in the description. You can make a copy of the presentation. While you are in Google Slides, let's go ahead and open up the Google Apps Script editor, and let's click on Apps Script. We have reached the script editor and we can begin writing the Apps Script code. But before we do that, we have to generate the Gemini API key. So, and we need to get the Gemini endpoint that we have to send the call to. So we'll go to aistudio.com and we can click on the get API section, and you can find that there is the Gemini 1.5 Flash model available, but you can go to the API documentation and look at various other APIs and endpoints that are available. But for this particular tutorial, we're going to be using the Gemini 2.0 Flash model, and I'll be leaving that code in the description. You can copy up the endpoint from there. And once we make the API key, you can go here, click on copy, and you have the API key. We'll go ahead and create a new variable called presentation, inside of which I'm going to do slides app.getActivePresentation. This is going to be fetching the current presentation that the script is attached to, since this is a bound script. And after that, I need to fetch the presentation name. So I'm going to do presentation underscore name, and it's going to be presentation.getName. So this is going to be returning the name or title of the presentation. After which I, of course, want to interact with the slides. So I need to get the slides. So I'll do presentation.getSlides. And the last thing that I'm going to be doing is declaring my Gemini endpoint, which is going to be containing my API key also. I'll paste that here. And now that we have access to the presentation and the slides, the next part of the code is going to be identifying the available shapes, such as text boxes and titles, that are present on each slide, and let's extract the content. Since there could be more than one slide, we'll have to use a for loop to iterate through all the slides. So I'm going to create a variable called slide index, which will be equal to 0. And I'm going to do slide index, should be slides dot length. And I would like the slide plus plus to be an increment. And once I'm inside of my for loop, I would like to get the current slide I'm on. So I'm going to do slides, and I'll use the slide index to access that particular slide. And I'm going to declare a variable called content, which is going to be storing my content that is available on my particular slide. After which I'll create a new variable called shapes, inside of which I'll do slide.getShapes. And it's a get shapes. Now there could be multiple shapes again on the particular slide. You could have this text box, you have this text box, you have this image, you have so many other things available on the slide. So I need to sort through all of them. So I'll create another for loop that looks something like this, where I'll do let I equal to 0. I once again has to be less than the shapes dot length, and I will be incremental. It's going to go plus plus because it will keep on going 1 2 3 4. And I want to get the first shape that's available, or the shapes in incremental format, and I'll do shapes I. After which I want to do if the shape exists and the shape has some text. So let's do shape dot get text, and if that's there, I would like to add that I would like to add it to my content, where I do shape dot get text dot as a string, and I'll just add a slash n here. And this is how I'd like to conclude getting this content from the slides. Each slide can contain various shapes with text content. The slides.getShapes function retrieves all the shape elements on the slide, and then we check if it exists, and if it exists, then we move forward to adding the shapes text string into the content variable. And I would like my code to also handle tables in case we have tables on the slides. I would like those tables to be sent to Gemini too, so that we can generate appropriate nodes for those tables. So we'll start off by creating a new variable called tables, inside of which I'll do slide.get tables. Oops. And once I have that, I'll create a for loop. Now there could be multiple again, so I'll do j0, and since I need to access each row and each column, so I'll do j0, j has to be then the tables dot length, and then j will again go plus plus plus, I mean 2 pluses, and after which I'll get table equal to tables j, and after which I want to get the number of rows that are available in the table, so I'm going to do table dot get num rows, after which I want to get the number of columns that are available, so I'll do num calls, make this const, I'll do table dot get num columns, and after which I'll be going and creating another for loop where I'll do for let row equal to 0, where row has to be less than the number of rows. I'd like to make this capital, this 2 num rows, after which I'll do a row plus plus. These are just for loops that we're going to be using, where we are iterating using 2 for loops here. Once we write the second for loop, it will make more sense. And once I have that, I'm going to create another for loop here, and I'll let the column equal to 0, and I will let call be less than the number of columns, and call will once again go for plus plus. I'll do something like this here. Num calls, I'll do a colon here, and inside of this I'm going to be doing const cell, and that's going to be table dot get cell, and inside of this I'm going to be passing the row and the call here. And once I get that, I'm going to add it to my content, cell dot get text dot as string, close up the brackets, and I'll add 1/n here. And once we are done with our code, I'm going to come out here and put in a logger.log that prints in the current slide content for that. So while it's iterating through each slide, it's going to be printing its content in the execution log just as a reference. So this is the prompt that I'm going to be using here. Const prompt: create a concise and impactful speaker notes for the following Google slide content, targeting a general audience interested in automation. And we give it the slide contents. After which I'm just going to be pasting in the default Gemini structure code that we have, that looks at the header, the request body, and the options for the Gemini request. If you want to know more about how to write these options and request body and headers, I've created multiple tutorials on Gemini where I've broken down them. You can check out the Gemini and Google Apps Script playlist in the description. You can check that out. And if you're interested to learn Google Apps Script, I am running a live training that looks at teaching you Google Apps Script in 4 weeks. And if you're interested, you can check out the link in the description. There's a Google form that you can fill out, and there will be batches rolling out. And the first cohort just completed, where it was a 4-week course, and a batch of 30 students spent 4 weeks from zero to hero in Google Apps Script. So if you want to know more about the course and the training, you can check out the link in the description. But back to the video. I'm going to be creating a variable called let output, and I'm going to let that be to null. And now I'm going to be using the try and catch method to basically call Gemini. And this is going to be the same code that we use normally. So I have my response, I use the URL fetch app, I put in the Gemini endpoint and the options here. So these options will contain my prompt, content type is going to be JSON, I have my post method, I have my headers, and I have my request body. So that are going to be my options. After which I'm going to be parsing the data. So it's going to be simple. It's just once we get the response, we do a JSON.parse, and from the response we get the content text. After which this is the way we extract data out of a Gemini response. Data.new.candidates. Data.new can be whatever variable that you have, but normally we use candidates0.content.parts.text. After which I just log the data new, which tells me the response that Gemini has given me without actually parsing it like we have done in the output variable. And then I log in the output, after which in case there's an error, it's going to be saying error calling Gemini for this particular slide, and it sets an output that says error generating nodes for this slide. So this try and catch method helps us make sure that the rest of the code runs, and if it fails, it gives an error for one and moves on to the next one. And now that we have the Gemini part ready, now we have completed most part of the code. That is accessing the slides, fetching the content tables, taking that data, sending it to Gemini, and parsing it and bringing it back. Now it's time to put those details or put the speaker notes into the Google Slides speaker notes section. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is fetching the notes page. And for that, I'm going to do slide.get notes page. After which I'm going to do let notes underscore shapes equal to notes page dot get shapes. So I'm finding the main shape that is containing the notes text, and once I have that, I'm going to be finding the notes shape for my text box or a body, so that I can fetch a body where I can put in my speaker notes. And I'm going to do let notes shape equal to null, after which I'm going to open up a for loop. I'm going to let I equal to 0, after which I'm going to do I notes underscore shape dot length, after which I is going to be, of course, I plus plus. So this is going to be the if loop that we're going to be using right now. So you can see it gets for that particular shape, it checks whether it's a text box or it's a body. And in case it's that, it tells us that it has found a suitable text box at index this one. And if not, it logs out and it goes back to the next one and keeps on finding it. But there's a debugging log that we have added here too. And once we are done, in case there is no notes page at all on that particular slide, so we will do in case there are no notes page. If there is no notes page, we just do a logger.log, and we just say no suitable notes shape found on the slide or on notes page. This doesn't happen, but it's always good to have a set of error handling stuff that allows your code to flow and even inform any end user about the potential errors of the code. Now that we have fetched the notes, we can go ahead and enter the notes into the Google Slides. So I'm going to do let text range equal to notes shape dot get text, after which I'm going to do text range dot set text, and inside of this I'm going to be putting in the output. So I'm going to be adding a logger.log that says notes added successfully to slide at this particular index. Here you can see this is the final logger.log that we add that says finished processing all slides. And you can see our code is ready and good to go. So if I go back to my Google Slides, I can see that my slides don't have any speaker notes as of now. And I can just click on save, and I'll just go ahead and click on run. Let's just click on run again. And you'll have to start off by giving some permissions, because this is the first time you're running something like this. So it will ask you whether you can give it access to your slides and connecting to an external service. An external service in this case would be the Gemini 2.0 Flash model that we are trying to access. You can see it has started out by printing in the content of the slides of slide 1. It gives me the Gemini response, and then it gives me the response that is extracted out of this response, and it does that for all slides. The next thing is they said there's a suitable shape at this particular index, and the note has been added to that. If I scroll down here, at the end it says finish processing all slides. And if I go back to my Google Slides, I can see under each slide there are speaker notes entered into my Google Slide presentation. Now you can always adjust the style of the speaker notes that you receive depending on the prompt that you pass it. So in this tutorial, we basically built an automation script that generates speaker notes for Google Slides using the Gemini 2.0 Flash model and Google Apps Script. By extracting content slides, crafting an effective prompt, and making an API call to Gemini, we automated the often tedious and time-consuming task of creating speaker notes. This approach not only saves time, but also ensures clear, concise, and engaging notes for presentations. As a next step, consider experimenting with different prompts or extending the solution to handle larger presentations more effectively. And you can always adjust the prompt, and that's how you will get a different response in your slides. If you expect a different style of response, you just have to refine the prompt that you are sending to Gemini. You can check out the code link that is available in the description, and I'll provide you other documentation links. If you like this video, then don't forget to like, share, and for more content, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.